So there we go.
Are you just actually moved by the wind there, or is that actually movement of your own body?
No, that's just the way that I dance just like the wind, mate. I can adapt and just right. So anyway, can we not talk about my dancing, because clearly that
second one that I want to talk about is well, it's probably a little bit further on. What we're just saying is, are you and others willing to answer the questions? And this is a big one, Tony. There's a lot of surface stuff that we talk about all the time, but are we actually getting deeper and then challenging our own, whether that's conscious or subconscious, limiting beliefs or challenges? Are you willing to answer the questions, Tony?
Well, again, if you're going to ask a forward-facing question, that is, what are the things that I need to do to be able to propel my life forward or business forward, then you're absolutely right. You need to sit with it. And this is where, we talk about here regularly, the little magic spot: grab your carpet, sit out in the park, sit out in the bush, sit down by the water. I mean, my gosh, what a beautiful, location I am here today in Brisbane. But the point is that you want to sit with your thoughts. Ask a question that takes you in a forward direction and then sit with it. Right. So firstly, we don't ask the question. And secondly, we don't even allow ourselves the time to sit and think about the answer. We're going to be worried that when we don't have things around us, we're with our own thoughts, we're worried about what's going to come up. Yes, there is going to be negative thoughts that come up. I'm going to tell you that. I get them. Luke gets them. We all get them. That's the way that we're wired. So the reality is that if you're getting negative thoughts, you're not on your own. That's just how things work from a physiological, neurological standpoint.
Direct example this morning, looked out the window. It was quite windy and the chance of real strong storm or rain. Going out for my run, it's going to be a challenge this morning. But I got out there and it was actually quite easy.
Yeah, and so again, there's yes, it's going to be a challenge, but then, we talk about be careful what you say to yourself, because your mind's listening, because the reality is that, if you keep telling yourself it's going to be hard, it's going to be a challenge and all those types of things, then, it is going to be more difficult than you need to make it, as opposed to, well, it is what it is. It's a bit overcast, or it's a bit windy or whatever. Am I appropriately dressed? Do I have all the gear? And I've just got to put my head down and go for it,
Am I going to get rained on like you are right now?
Well, I'm not actually at the moment, so it's although we've got dark clouds have come over the top of me, so there's no rain right now, but I dare say very shortly there will. But it's about not saying to yourself that this is going to be challenging or this is going to be tough or whatever. It's about going, well, it is what it is. It's inclement weather. It's not good weather. What do I need to do to make this happen? What do I need to do to push through my 7K strong, fast, whatever it might be? And it's about asking those questions. But then the whole point of point number 2 is about sitting with the answers. Writing things down, write stuff down. There's a lot to be said through the creative process of grabbing a pen, getting a piece of paper and actually writing stuff down. And even, people might have a little bit of writer's block when they start. I always say to people, just write out the word BLAH, BLAH. So blah, blah, blah. Just start writing that word out. Right? You start to write it a few times, all of a sudden then something will appear, something will open up for you, and you'll write that down. You go, oh, that's a good thought, and you'll write that down, and guess what happens? Something else will start to appear, and then before you know it, you're going to be on a flow. But it's about putting yourself in a position to ask the question, but then answer your own questions as well. Now, if you haven't got the answer, and that's okay, then the question is, where do I go to get the answer? Who can help me with that? And there's this amazing website. I think we've talked about this once or twice as well. So if you've got a pen and paper handy, it's google.com. Google it up. Be as literal as you can with it and type it up. Google's an amazing website, because I literally just Google things up all of the time. I remember doing this with a client. I think I said it just recently, with a new prospect, and I said to them, okay, I'm going to tell you about this amazing website, and I could see them through the Zoom. There was 3 of us, and both of them got their pad and their pen out, ready to go, and I said, G-O-O-G, and it's like, oh my gosh, we had a bit of a laugh about it. My point is, it's not that difficult. It's not difficult, because be resourceful. Where do I go? So ask a better question, you get a better answer. Where do I go to find that answer?
I just saw a video just yesterday, actually, from Gary Vee, and it was an interview he did with, I think his name's Steve Harvey.
Yep, Steve Harvey, yep, correct. So black comedian from and also Family Feud, yep.
Yeah, that's right. And he actually asked Gary, like, what book would you recommend people read? And he goes, okay, Google, and the audience all laughed and whatever. I was like, hey, it's 2020. You don't need to read anymore. Like, it's so the past. Everything
You
is
need, well, you need to read, but you don't need to read. You don't have to read a book, I suppose, is what his point is. So you want to read something. You want to absorb something. Now, a lot of people don't choose not to read at all, right? So then you've got audio books, you've got YouTube clips, you've got other courses and other things that you can be doing.
Absorbing information.
Yeah, of course. So it's about this is called self-awareness. If you recognize that you're not a reader, then stop trying to push yourself down a path and it's like, oh, it's so bloody hard. It's like, okay, just accept it. Get out there, and when you're on a walk, get an audio book, listen to podcasts, do all sorts of things. So I'm a prolific podcaster as well. So I'm always listening to podcasts, whether I'm driving, whether I'm walking, whether I'm whatever I'm doing. I love listening to a good podcast, right? And the great thing with podcasts is that you can do multiple things as well. So, but yes, it's about self-awareness, but always be asking the question, where do I go for that answer?
What if I'm a daydreamer?
Yeah, what about it?
As opposed to a reader.
Well, if you're a daydreamer, what are you daydreaming about? Capture those thoughts. So, if you're daydreaming, so it's one thing to daydream about a hole of a star, but then it's about, we want to actually capture some of those things and then build a plan. There's a saying which is a goal or a dream without a plan is just a wish, right? And so it's about going, nothing wrong with being a daydreamer. Everything in this world starts as a thought, everything. So the phone that I'm talking you to now, the tripod that's holding up my phone, it started as a thought. Someone thought, hey, we need to have this tripod. We're going to draw this thing out. We're going to then go and get it made and sell it and whatever. And the same with the phone. Everything starts as a thought. So there's nothing wrong with being a daydreamer. It's just if you're constantly daydreaming, right, and not actually going, well, I'm actually going to move something in a forward's direction, well, that's just, you're just wishing. You're just wishing versus going, okay, good dreams. Is there something in that I want to then bring to life maybe? Maybe there's an idea that I want to do with my business or with my relationship or with health and wellness. And if there is, then it's about capturing what's the plan that sits in behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to a third item we want to discuss today is, if you ask better questions, will you get better answers, Tony? And before you get into that, Sean said, while we're waiting on Luke's book, we're still looking at other books to fill in our reading time. So Sean doing a little bit of subtle push towards me getting a book out there.
Well, I hope you're reading my book, Sean. So I've gone and written, last year we wrote 3 of them. So we wrote a book on how to deal with real estate agents. We wrote a book on growing sales in your small business, and then we wrote some goals books just recently. So there's 3. They're not full-blown novels, but we've got 3 of them out there. So from a taking action point of view, that's one of the things that I pride myself on, is that we're following through on the things that we talk about, and hence we've got books out there, and they're free books. They're books for people to help them out. To help you move forward if that's of relevance to you, and to go and achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. But it's all about helping people move forward.
Peter Trong says, not much of a reader here. Any recommendations for podcasts or YouTube? I've got a podcast that I've done probably 170 episodes of a podcast.
There you go.
About property, talking about mindset around property. So that's a bit of a harmless plug for me. Tony, any recommendations from you?
Well, so firstly, Peter, it depends on what you want. So there's the Gary Vee podcast, obviously. There's Tom Bilyeu. You've got him. Ed Milet is a great one. Who else? Lewis Howes. So you've got a number of them that are my go-tos. Ed Milet's an amazing interviewer. What's the guy's name? Guy. How We Built This. Guy. Oh, it'll come to me. It's not Dalton. Anyway, How We Built This. That's another one.
Read all your books, Tony. Well done on them, mate. So
thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. There you go. Thank you. So we'll give you some signed copies when I catch up with you, Sean, and meet you guys in the flesh. But there's a few podcasts that I listen to. Ed Milet is terrific. He's a great interviewer and always has a good guest on there. Love anything that's got Dr. Joe Dispenza in it, a neuroscientist. So really engrossed.
A couple other suggestions have come up as well, Tony. Simon Sinek, and that's from Sean. And Julian said Masters of Scale podcast.
Well, there you go. Great. Thank you, guys. And it's not just about, and hey, there we go. Thank you so much for contributing in, and this helps everyone as well. So it's not just
put
about...
your hand up and look at, not only we are giving suggestions, but the community And this is the power of it. It is exactly the same as what happened to me when I was at that seminar all those years ago, putting up my hand, being vulnerable, saying, I'm struggling, I need some help, I need some suggestions. And Peter did exactly the same. So that's what it's all about. Put up your hand and it will, it could change your life.
That's the thing within a lot of the Facebook groups as well. So you've got various groups, property groups and business groups and whatever. There's a whole variety of groups. But that's the other thing, is get in there and ask some questions, and you'll be surprised. There's people want to give. Like, there's people who want to help you. Not everybody's going to do that, but there'll be people in there who want to help, who want to give, who want to pay it forward, because guess what? We all had to start somewhere. Like, I just didn't, come down and appear as I am today. I had to start somewhere, and I've gone through my own trials and tribulations, and people help me, and people continue to help me, and I don't forget that. And so it's about me wanting to then go and pay it forward and help other people. And so, but you've got to ask the question, right? That's one of the big things about this, is you've got to have the courage to ask the question. This is where, I think the whole, are you okay day relies on others asking you the question, whereas, I would encourage people to don't wait to be asked, right? Why don't you ask first? Why don't wait for someone to say, are you okay? Why don't you say, you know what, I'm doing a bit tough right now. You know what? Things aren't the way that I thought they would be. Now, that takes an enormous amount of courage, vulnerability to do that, but try it, trust me, and you will be absolutely amazed with the response that you get. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to go and publicly blast out and say, I'm not feeling great at the moment. You don't have to do that. I mean, if you want to, you can. But what I'm saying is, reach out to those closest to you and be honest with people. Don't BS people, and say, you know what, I'm not feeling okay. I'm doing it tough right now. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with seeking help and guidance. I know, Luke, you were there for me last year, during an incredibly difficult period of time for me in my life, as were other people as well. And it's about saying, well, I need some help. I don't, just because I'm a guy who makes a living out of helping people doesn't mean that I don't need help as well, from time to time.
And that's what it is, I think, around the vulnerability of it. I think we've got to be careful about the whinging aspect of it. But if we're really just like soft in our approach and really saying, I'm struggling with certain things in my life, or I have fears around certain things of what's going to happen, then you might open up yourself to some amazing conversations, and that will lead to some better plans, better strategies for yourself, and having a better life around it as well.
Can I just want to say on that. So that then says to me. So you talk about that whinging aspect, right? And so, firstly, ask the question. Always come from a good place when you ask it. It's about intention. But the second is that if you ask a question and someone gives you advice and you do nothing with it, and then come back a month later and have the same question, then I'm probably reluctant to give you advice, in the sense that I've given you advice and you've got to take the action in this, right? As opposed to keep coming back time and time again. And I can tell you very honestly, that's how the Psychology of Property Development program came about all those years ago, because when I was coaching Rob, he was saying to me that, Tony, I keep getting people come up in the masterminds at the end of his program. For those who haven't been, that meetup involves a mastermind where people sit around in a circle and help each other. But the point is that people coming month after month after month after month with the same stuff, and they weren't taking action. That's where the whole psychology side of things came in. So you're going to ask a question, you're going to get some good answers, but then you've got to put your left foot in front of your right, and you've got to act on those.
Yeah, so Kat may have left already, but she's really enjoyed the session, and we'll catch up soon. Stephen said, the ability to freely have thinking time free of interference is essential. I find that fits into Tony's above the line thinking. The 168-hour timeline, visually looking at in an hour by hour blocks is so necessary, and daydreaming is actually relaxing too.
Yeah, of course.
And Stephen is someone that we almost need to interview. He's got a lot of insight.
Well, he's an incredibly knowledgeable man. He's a great friend of mine. We caught up on the phone earlier this week, but he's a wonderful man, and he's been, he's worked with me, and also, I've worked with him as well. And so the point that he's making there is there's a few things. So firstly, in a week, there's 168 hours. The biggest excuse that I get from my clients predominantly is I have no time. My answer constantly to that is BS, because we all have time. There's 168 hours. We can find time, right? We can truly find time. If something's important, you'll be able to find the time. If you need some help in finding time, then I'm happy to have a chat to you. So there's 168 hours. The other is that when you found that time, so there's two things with time. There's quantity time and there's quality time. Quantity time is how much time do I have? How do I find the time that I need? It might only be 15 minutes, right? You don't have to find an hour if you're struggling with that. Let's start with 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Let's start with 2 minutes, 1 minute. The next is then quality time. That is, now I've found the time. Now I've got to make sure that I'm spending that in a quality fashion. I'm doing something. And it might just be sitting there and daydreaming. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Sit with your thoughts. Come down to the location that I am here and actually soak it up. I mean, honestly, it doesn't get much better. You sit down and sort of look at this, view and just sit with your thoughts. What a lovely, beautiful part of the world that I'm in. There's certainly many other beautiful parts of the world. But my point is that you want to sit with your thoughts, but you've got to allow yourself the time, right? We just don't do that. And when you have the time, shut your phone down. Shut down the distractions. Don't sit there and be in the midst of something and then having, buzzes going off and notifications coming up and phones ringing and emails going off. Ridiculous, right? Actually shut it all down. I say to my clients, and I do it myself as well, shut things down. Give yourself the bandwidth to be able to focus on that thing that you want to do.
That's excellent. Any better questions that we can ask ourselves, Tony, while we're thinking about that? Sean said Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins, and Will Smith are the podcasts that people can have a think about. David's come on. Good to see you on, David. There's always time, says Sean, even more time under the bed. Found my watch. Was that a joke?
I don't know. I've not met Sean, but I'm sensing there's a quirky personality there, because there's a lot of different humours that's come in, I know, through his comments. But we do have time, right? Sean is right. So let me focus on that piece. We absolutely have time. We have 168 hours. And if you sit there and break down how you spend your time, and I did do a very rough time chart, but if you're in a job and you're working 40 hours a week, if you're sleeping 8 hours a day, and I recommend that you do get good sleep. Sleep is such a powerful weapon from a health point of view. So 8 hours a night over a week, that's 56 hours. If you're doing a whole lot of other stuff, if you're doing stuff for say 6 hours a day, you might be eating, you might be spending time with family, you might be exercising, you might be traveling. So another 6 hours a day, that's 42 hours. If you add all of that up, it's going to leave you 30 hours in your week. 30 hours in your week. Now, you might argue, well, Tony, I don't work 40 hours, I work 50. Cool. Take 10 off. That means you still got 20 hours. What are you doing? What are you doing with your time, right? So we can all find the time if we want to. The issue is that we avoid stuff. It's called procrastination, avoidance, right? Fear. That's what it is. We avoid the things that we know we should be doing and do something else. And so it'll be, I'll go and clean my desk or do the dishes or, mow the lawn with scissors or whatever it might be. I'll do anything but doing the thing that I need to be doing at that point.
Often, Tony, it's people often focus on what we have to do, that, rather than what we want to be doing, or that elevated idea of the progression forward.
Yep. So there's two words. So one is urgent, the other is important. We spend our life doing the urgent things. Urgent, the oh shit moments, that's due, boss needs that, I've got to make that phone call, got to do that email, got to do that banking, got to blah, 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 blah. Urgent, versus the important stuff. Important stuff fundamentally shifts lives, fundamentally grows business. By doing the important, allocate time in your day, in your week for important things.
I'm waiting for Sean to come up and say to me, oh, what about your book? Is that important or urgent, Luke?
Okay, well, there you go. You've got in first. So another way to describe this is, and I'll see if I can find the link. It's a YouTube video, and I use it in my teaching as well. It's about putting the big rocks in, right? So you've got big rocks, small rocks, and sand. So you've got a jar. When you put your what tends to happen is if the big rocks are you, if the small rocks are us, so your close circle, your circle of family and friends, and then the sand is them. Them could be job, distant people, whatever it might be. We tend to put them in first. We tend to put our job in first. Our job's a priority. So we put this sand in the jar. Then we go and put others around us, so our family, our friends in the jar. And then what happens is we go to put the big rocks, which is us, in the jar, and it doesn't fit. and it spills over the edge. But if you reverse that and you say, hang on a second, I'm going to put the big rocks in. So when you sit out and think about your week, and Sunday's a great time to think about the week ahead, why don't you allocate some time? So, for example, it might be I want to do some exercise. I want to do some meditation. I want to do some, just sitting there and strategic thinking or whatever it might be. Allocate that in first. Put that in first. There's your big rocks in the jar. Then what you do is you put your family and your close friends in around that. And then on top of that, you put the sand. And guess what happened? The sand then goes through, fills up all the cracks, and everything fits neatly into the jar. And so it's about putting the big rocks in first. What are your big rocks? That's a question. What are your big rocks?
What are your big rocks?
What are the things that
people on that one? What are your big rocks? David says, I'm outsourcing some of my other work to make time to focus on the things I am better at. So that's really good.
Terrific. That's a smart play, David. It's about recognising your strengths and recognising where you have shortcomings, and we all have them. And I have, two full-time ladies who work with me, and I give them an enormous amount of stuff to do. And because there's things in my business that I'm not very good at, that I don't like doing, that needs to be done, but it just ain't going to get done by me. And so it's about going, here, you do those things, and I'm going to focus on, what I like doing, what I'm good at, and what will take my business forward.
Ken says, oh God, I'm away on holidays and I forgot about the Saturday session. Nothing to do with sleeping in. Going to have to listen to the recording. Ken Murray.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, Ken, and that's the beautiful thing. It's like if you can join us live, we appreciate it. And if you can't, hey.
Well, maybe his big rocks this morning was, quality time and just to get away from it all and not to get out of routine. Good.
You're on holidays. You've worked hard. You've had you've coming. This is obviously your peak season. So for you to take a little break, you sold part of your business just recently. So there's nothing wrong with having some time off and enjoying it. And the beautiful thing is the recording's here. It sits here on Facebook, on Luke's Facebook. If you want it on YouTube, it's on my YouTube. So it's there forever. So but thank you, mate. We appreciate you joining us.
Tony, any final questions on or comments or answers on the actual topic of questions?
Well, the questions are forward-facing questions. So the question, challenge yourself on what are some forward-facing questions. How do I? What do I need to do? Who can I speak to? Where do I find that answer? Right? These are all forward-facing questions, not the questions of why am I no good? Why don't things work for me? How come I'm always a failure, always have losses, right? These are all negative, backward-looking things. It's about constantly looking in a forward direction. Open questions, open questions. The who, the what's, the where, the when's, the why's, the how's. They're all open questions. And open questions require more thought as opposed to closed questions, which are yes/no answers. And so it's about have open questions and just sit with it. Again, open a question, sit with it. Sit with your thoughts. Daydream a little bit on that question. See what comes up for you. Share the notes with us here on a Sunday morning.
We love it. Absolutely. Everyone, thank you so much for coming on today to listen to our mindset session about questions, about answers. Hopefully it's giving you a place to start asking yourself the questions.
Absolutely. And if you've got any suggestions, if you've got a lot of people started to come forward today, and that's wonderful. If you've got any suggestions on things you want Luke and I to talk about, if there's something that's coming up for you in the week and you say, gee whiz, I wish that the guys would talk about such and such, reach out to us privately, reach out to us publicly through here. But we'd love to know about it. And we want to be able to help you. We give up of our time on a Sunday morning. We want to make sure that we're helping all of you move forward, and we can do that even more if we know what are some things that you'd like to.
Could be because we're just talking about Ken about breaking the routine. That could be an interesting one.
Okay.
I've got a few routines and habits that I do myself. That could be an interesting topic because there's a lot of people actually challenge me sometimes. It's like, well, what if you don't get up and run? What if you don't go and do a Facebook Live? That I've been doing each and every day for the last 3 years, each of those different things. So maybe break routine could be an interesting and very
could be, but also that's where those sorts of questions from others is where they're coming from, right? And so that's where they're coming from. They're thinking, well, I don't have the stamina to do what you're doing, and so I'm thinking, well, what if you broke it? Whereas for you, those questions don't enter your mind. I know they don't because we spend a lot of time personally talking about this stuff. It's just a non-negotiable. It's like, as the sun rises, I'm running, whatever it might be. So, for that fact that those people want to say, hey, what if you don't? What if you don't? What if you don't? Well, that to me says more about them than it does about you.
Well said, Tony. Sean says, great session today, guys. Pole dance off our suggestion. Oh, geez.
Pole dancing. Okay.
Oh my
Well,
God.
I'm just
He's reflecting on Davina. That's why.
I've got there is where's my I don't know where it is here. So that's a big pole. I could go and do a pole dance around that big pole.
Oh my God.
How's that for a big pole? Right, so perhaps I could do that.
We should
Anyway.
not be talking about polls on here. All right, everyone, It's been a great session. Thank you so much. And
bye.
have a great Sunday, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.